Hi, friends. Today I have a new story for you. Enjoy. Since I was a child, I had always dreamed of living in the big Victorian house on Maple Street. I used to walk by it and imagine myself inside its tall towers and beautiful rooms. I saved money for 10 years, just waiting for the day it would be for sale. But when I saw my family's cars in the driveway, my heart sank. I'm Rebecca Chin, 35 years old, and I just found out my family bought the house I'd wanted for years. They knew how much I loved it. I talked about it nonstop for the past 3 months. "Oh, good, you're here," my sister Amanda called from the porch, acting overly excited. "We wanted to surprise you." My parents stood beside her, my dad holding the keys and my mom smiling proudly. From their faces, I could tell they didn't just buy the house because it was beautiful. They bought it to beat me. "Isn't it perfect?" Amanda said as she showed me around. "When we heard you wanted to buy it, we just had to get it first. It's too fancy, for just one person anyway." I stayed calm as I walked through the rooms I knew so well from the online pictures. The wooden floors, the carved railings, the stained glass windows. Everything I loved about the house now belonged to them. "We'll host all the family gatherings here from now on," my mom added. "You never had space in your little apartment." But what they didn't know was that I had planned for this. Last month, when I saw Amanda secretly visiting the house, I figured out what they were up to. It was just like them, turn everything into a competition and then act surprised when I got upset. But this time, I wasn't the one who lost. While they were focused on stealing my dream home, I had already bought Riverside Manor, the even bigger and older house right next door. Renovations had already started to turn it into something even grander. "It must have been expensive," I said casually, watching their reactions. "The housing market's tough right now." "Oh, we managed," my dad replied proudly. "Some of us know how to handle money, unlike people who waste it on school." His insult about my PhD didn't bother me. That waste had led to a great career in research and more success than they could imagine. They saw me as the failure in the family, still single, no kids, always working. But I'd quietly built a life that would shock them. "Well, it's lovely," I said, heading to the door. "I have some moving to do myself." "Moving?" Amanda asked, surprised. "Are you finally leaving that old apartment?" I smiled. "Something like that. I'll see you all soon. We're going to be neighbors." I left them standing there, confused, and I couldn't wait for what would happen in 2 weeks. The moving trucks were on their way to Riverside Manor, and soon my family would realize their plan to beat me had completely failed. But right now, I had work to do. Contractors were waiting, and there were updates to check on. The wine cellar needed fixing, and the ballroom chandeliers were being brought back to their original sparkle. My family had always looked down on me, treated me like a rival instead of a loved one. But they were about to learn a hard lesson. While they played small games, I'd been thinking 10 steps ahead. 2 weeks later, I stood in my newly renovated foyer, looking out the giant windows as the moving trucks arrived, right on time. I saw Amanda step onto her porch with a cup of coffee. She looked curious. I smiled. The real show was about to start. The movers began unloading high-end furniture, antique pieces I'd collected over the years, and real artwork. Nothing like my mother's fake prints. Every piece told a story. The story of everything I'd built while they were busy trying to one-up me. "Miss Chin," a mover asked, holding a clipboard, "where should we put the grand piano? In the music room or the ballroom?" I saw Amanda stop mid-sip, frozen. "The music room, please," I said. "The ballroom's lights are still being worked on." An hour later, my parents' car came speeding into their driveway. Amanda must have called them in a panic. I kept giving directions to the movers, pretending I didn't see my family staring from their porch. "Rebecca," my mother called. "What's going on?" I turned and acted surprised. "Oh, hi. Just moving in. Would you like to see the place?" They followed me inside, their faces growing more shocked with each room. The grand staircase, the fancy ceilings, the original woodwork. Everything was bigger. Everything was better than what they had. But how? Amanda started. "You couldn't afford this." "Actually," I said calmly, "I could. While you thought I was stuck in that little apartment, I was saving, investing, and planning." You thought I lived simply because I had no choice. But I was building something. My father's face turned red. You let us think. I let you believe what you wanted, I said. Just like you let me believe you cared about my dreams, even when you outbid me on the Victorian house. Fair's fair. I gave them the full tour, past the massive library, through the sunroom full of rare plants, and into the high-end kitchen that made theirs look old. And this, I said, opening two large doors, is the ballroom. I'll be hosting the family Christmas party here this year. Hope that's okay. My mother gasped, but we always host Christmas. Well, things change, I said with a smile. And my place can fit everyone without feeling crowded. They didn't know what to say. Just then, my phone buzzed. Excuse me, I said, checking the message. That's my interior designer. We're finalizing plans for the rooftop garden. Rooftop garden? Amanda's voice was high and sharp. Oh yes, I said casually. You can see your backyard from up there. Great view. They left soon after, whispering to each other while peeking through my windows. I watched my family return to the Victorian house, the one they bought just to hurt me. But now it looked small both in size and in meaning next to my success. That night, as I sat in my library sipping wine, the text messages started coming in. First from Amanda. You planned this all along, didn't you? Then from my mom. We should talk about Christmas plans. And finally from my dad. We need to talk about your investment advice. I didn't answer any of them. For years, they had treated every family event like a contest. Every time I succeeded, they acted like it was a threat. Now they had to live next door to the proof that their plan had completely failed. The next morning, I hired landscapers to start working on my gardens. They began early, and the noise of drills, saws, and shouting workers went on for weeks. Sometimes, karma sounds like power tools. Welcome to the neighborhood, family. The game is on. 2 months after moving into Riverside Manor, I threw my first big event, a garden party to show off the property. My family watched from their smaller backyard as caterers set up fancy tables under imported umbrellas. Musicians played soft music by the fountain. Eventually, they couldn't resist and wandered over. Isn't this a bit much? My mom asked, clearly annoyed they hadn't been in charge of planning. Not at all, I said, taking a glass of champagne from a server. Just a simple welcome party for the neighbors. The guest list was handpicked. Business leaders, professors, and a few real estate developers who couldn't stop talking about how my renovations were raising home values. My family's house, once the grandest on the block, was now just average. Amanda pulled me aside by the rose bushes. Was your whole plan just to make us look bad? No, I said honestly. My plan was to buy my dream home. You turned it into a competition. So I played along just once. The party was a big success. Everyone loved Riverside Manor. My family tried to host their own parties after that, but no one really came. My house had become the new center of attention. 6 months after I moved in, my dad showed up at my door. We're thinking of selling, he said stiffly. The upkeep costs are higher than we thought. I nodded. Victorian homes can be pricey. Though I've heard home values went up a lot since I fixed up this place. He looked uncomfortable. Well, we thought maybe you'd want to buy it. Keep it in the family. Why would I want a smaller house? I asked sweetly. Besides, I kind of enjoy watching you deal with the results of your choices. They didn't sell. Their pride wouldn't let them. So instead, they had to live with it. Every time the family gathered at my house, they were reminded that trying to outdo me had backfired. Every new improvement I made their home look older and more worn out. Christmas that year was especially satisfying. The ballroom, professionally decorated, was big enough for everyone. No one felt cramped. Even cousins who once criticized my life choices now asked for advice on careers and investing. As I watched my parents and sister wander through my home, looking awkward and out of place, I didn't feel proud or smug, just satisfied. They'd spent so long trying to prove they were better. But in the end, they were only competing with themselves. Later that evening, Aunt Sarah joined me by the Christmas tree. Your home is stunning, she said. But don't you ever feel lonely? All the space. just for one person. I smiled. I had plans to turn the East Wing into a research center. Not lonely at all, I said. I've filled my house and my life with exactly what I want, not what others think I should want. My family still lives next door. Every day they look out their windows and see what could have been. They once tried to teach me a lesson about staying in my place, but I taught them something else instead. Never underestimate someone who knows exactly who they are. And now they get to live with that reminder right next door.